we have obtained more than 600,000 signatures to put Prop 20 on the ballot. We currently are having a big lead in the polls. As you know, after the passage of the notorious Prop 47 in 2014, stealing or robbing anything below $950 has been virtually allowed. That has plagued California for 6 long years, costing us billions of dollars. For example, a man who has stolen more than 360 times in just about 16 months has confessed that he actually brought a calculator with him every time he broke into a retail store to ensure that he did not steal more than $950, so as to be exonerated every single time. In fact, in California and also the Bay Area, businesses and residents have been complaining about burglary and theft all the time. California actually is one of the worst states in this aspect. Among the top 20 largest cities in our country, San Francisco is the worst in terms of property crime. Is it about time for us to do something? Yes. The answer is Prop 20. Prop 20 would stop this. Prop 20 would stop serial theft. Under Prop 20, anybody getting caught for stealing a third time for over $250 can be charged for felony. Now, even though the first 2 times, it can still be $950. Moreover, many violent crimes, including hate crimes, are now considered non-violent in California because of, again, Prop 47, thus empowering those who terrorize others simply because they are different. Prop 20 stipulates that hate crimes are violent, and it is a good declaration that we Californians do not tolerate hatred and violence. It is also a good protection for the targets of hate crime. And some other crimes which will also be reclassified back to be violent crime include, but not limited to, drive-by shooting, assault with a deadly weapon, trafficking a child for sex, felony abuse of senior citizens and children under the age of 8, and raping an unconscious person. Now, the above-mentioned downgrading of violent crimes has led to lighter sentencing, diminishing the necessary deterrence, and has caused early release due to Prop 57. Furthermore, AB 109 does not allow the Board of Parole hearings to consider the inmate's entire criminal history, but only his most recent committed offense. Now, that is a big mistake. For example, an inmate with over 200 committed offenses was released because of this, and he ended up killing 2 persons due to minor reasons after the release. Prop 20 would allow the parole boards to consider the entire criminal history of the inmate to make the right decision. Finally, Prop 20 would reinstate DNA collection for certain crimes that were reduced to misdemeanors due to Prop 47, thus increasing the chance of solving violent crimes. Now, as a result, almost all of the top California groups in law enforcement, commerce, justice holding, and public safety are supporting and endorsing Prop 20. So, our media friends, if you can see your attachments, you will know the leaders in our leadership committee and also the key endorsers. Suffice it to say, it's about time that we have this proposition to fight against crime and to solve the colossal problems of Prop 47 and 57. Please definitely vote yes on Prop 20 and tell everybody you know to do the same. This is very crucial for California. Thank you. So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our next speaker, who as a top expert who is instrumental in drafting the proposition. And she is the president of California Deputy District Attorneys Association, Ms. Michelle Hennessy.
Mr. Lee, thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this event, and thank you for your support of Proposition 20. You know, just last week I was listening to Senate hearings in Sacramento, and one of our legislators said, we write laws that aren't always perfect, but we have the opportunity to correct them with new laws or new amendments, and that is the process that we are looking at here. Prop 20 will correct some of the unintended consequences of Assembly Bill 109, Proposition 47, and Proposition 57. AB 109 created a new kind of post-release supervision under the probation department for parolees, but the new system has been at times problematic because the judges who impose sentences were not being notified when a person violated the terms of their release. Prop 57, as you know, was represented to the voters is only affecting non-violent offenders. The governor himself said it was only supposed to apply for early release for non-violent offenders, and he took the position that it would never permit the early release of sex offenders. Well, we know now that that was incorrect based on the way it was written, and courts have found that sex offenders are eligible for early release as are third strikers. So to make the law what the governor promised to the voters, we need modifications, the modifications contained within Prop 20. Prop 20 would correct that and would define as violent all the crimes that actually are violent. Prop 47 was called the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. But what happened is it allowed criminals to walk into a store or open a car door and steal up to $950 of property as many times as they want without ever facing any increased penalty. So no matter how many times they steal, as long as the amount is under $950, they will always be punished the same as a first-time offender. So not surprisingly, statewide property crimes went up immediately following the enactment of Proposition 47. Proposition 47 also decriminalized all drug use and effectively eliminated mandatory drug treatment for addicts, which has had a terrible impact. And lastly, without ever intending to, Proposition 47 eliminated DNA collection for a lot of these crimes by reducing them to misdemeanors, and this resulted in fewer crimes being solved through the technology of DNA. Prop 20 would fix these issues without increasing the number of people sent to state prison. And Mr. Lee spoke about some of the main components of it. It expands the list of violent crimes that are ineligible for early release, and he told you what some of those were. I want to emphasize it does not add strikes to the penal code, and it requires reasonable notice to victims when their attacker is scheduled to be released early. It also reinstates DNA collection for certain crimes that were reduced to misdemeanors under Prop 47. And this is important because multiple studies have shown that DNA collected from theft and drug offenses help solve violent crimes like murder, robberies, and rapes. In fact, the Department of Justice study shows that for murder cases solved with DNA, 30% of that time, that DNA comes from someone convicted of a drug offense, and 29% of the time, the DNA was collected from someone who was convicted of a property crime. But since passage of Prop 47, cold case DNA hits have dropped drastically. It would also make serial theft, when a person's convicted of theft for a third time, for a dollar value of over $250, punishable as a low-level felony. It's called a wobbler. It's actually punishable as a misdemeanor or felony. When Prop 47 changed the dollar threshold to $950 for felonies, there was an explosion of serial theft and an inability of law enforcement to prosecute these crimes effectively. Theft increases since Prop 47 have been in the tens of billions of dollars, and it's our merchants who suffered, and they're of course going to pass those expenses along to the consumer. Prop 20 would de-incentivize serial theft offenders and organized theft rings by increasing punishment for those groups, specifically for repeat offenses. And it also allows the aggregation of theft offenses by organized theft rings. When Governor Brown was promoting Prop 47, he believed that prosecutors had the ability to aggregate theft losses for purposes of felony charging, but the courts have said that is absolutely wrong and they do not. Prop 20 would fix that, and it would allow the aggregation of theft amounts by serial theft offenders and by organized theft rings. And again, I want to emphasize, none of these wobbler offenses under Prop 20, none of them are punishable by state prison. They're all low-level felonies. AB 109 created a new kind of parole, as I mentioned, called post-release community supervision. And what happened is parole was in charge of supervising people and could give them something called flash incarceration, but these people weren't being sent back in front of judges when they violated. And we have instances like the murder of Whittier police officer Boyer by inmate Michael Mejia, who was on post-release community supervision, and he'd violated the terms of his release multiple times without ever going back in front of a judge and having a judge consider violating him and sending him back to prison. So Prop 20 would fix that by requiring probation to notify the court of a third violation. It doesn't require more punishment. It requires that the individual be brought in front of the judge so that the judge can make that decision. In summary, Proposition 20 is very conservative. It doesn't propose to do any of the stated intents of AB 109, Prop 47, or Prop 57. To the contrary, what it does is it brings those laws in line with what was originally promised to the voters. And that's why we're putting forth this measure, so the voters get what they were promised. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. And right now, according to alphabetical order, we have our next speaker, who is very influential in California. And he is the president of International Faith-Based Coalition and also the chairman of National Congress of Racial Equality. This is Bishop Ron Allen. Bishop Ron Allen.
I think we may have lost Bishop Allen.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, so he'll probably join back on. So we may have to come back to the bishop.
Okay. Okay, no problem. Then we have our next speaker, who is also in the leadership committee of Prop 20, and is instrumental in working on this proposition. He is the immediate past president of California Police Chiefs Association, Chief Ron Lawrence.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with all of you, and to address the media on this important topic. As mentioned, I represent the California Police Chiefs Association as their immediate past president, and we have 332 municipal police chiefs who protect Californians, and this is an important issue for us, Prop 20. So when you hear about law enforcement support, I think our association is one of the more prominent ones, and we are proud to stand with the District Attorneys Association and others to get Prop 20 passed. Now, our association is nonpartisan. We don't look through a lens of Republican or Democrat. We only look through a lens of public safety. And what's important to us is keeping our communities safe and preventing victimization. That's the lens we see things through. And that's why we know that Proposition 20 is so critically important to California to correct some of these unintended consequences. My colleagues, Mr. Lee and Ms. Hennessy, explained very well the intricacies of Proposition 20, so I won't repeat them. But I do want to get down into a little bit more of the weeds about who are we talking about. So when we talk about the prolific theft, the theft and crimes that are occurring in California, it's costing us billions of dollars, as you've heard my colleagues say, and by the way, absorbed by our local businesses and passed on to consumers. So who is this? We're not talking about somebody who's been arrested. We're talking about people who've been convicted of theft, and we're not talking about your first-time offender. We're not even talking about your second-time offender. Someone has to be convicted 3 times under Proposition 20 for the threshold to be lowered to $250 and therefore charged as a wobbler. So who is this? Who is this we're talking about? What we're talking about are those very organized retail theft rings who are going up and down our state. They're going into our local communities and they're ripping us off blind. They're going into the strip malls, they're going into the mom and pop shops, they're going into the Walmarts, the Targets, the Home Depots, and they're stealing all the way up to $950. And even if they're caught, because it's a misdemeanor, they receive a citation with a court date. They don't go to jail, which means they can walk right across the street, go into the next store and steal something else up to $950, and they're still not going to go to jail. These organized retail theft rings have been doing significant damage to California, costing us billions of dollars. The other area that I want to focus on here, and Ms. Hennessy talked about it, is the drug addiction. I don't think it's any secret that in California, since the passage of 47, we've seen an explosion of homelessness up and down our state. You can go to just about any community and you'll see a number of homeless folks in our local towns. Many of them, unfortunately, are suffering from drug addiction. And I would argue to say that Proposition 47 was, frankly, an inhumane way to deal with drug addiction. Now, there's no police chief in California that wants to see a drug addict in jail. But the criminal justice system plays a critical role in getting them the help that they need through mandatory drug rehabilitation programs and mandatory drug court. Proposition 20 will do this because these are folks who are stealing to support their drug habit. And on their third conviction, our district attorney and our judges can make that case-by-case decision to get these folks into the right programs to get them help that they need. Proposition 20 will help us bring balance back to the criminal justice system. You also heard my colleagues talk about the violent crime categories, and this is very serious to us as police chiefs because, frankly, one of the biggest groups that we protect and represent are our victims, and the victim's voice at the state capitol has been lost the most. It has been muted in this era of criminal justice reform. And for us, our victim's voice wholeheartedly is an important one that needs to be heard loud and clear. Proposition 20 fixes this by bringing those horrible crimes that are committed by some of these people to be ineligible for early release. You heard a few of them. Assault with a deadly weapon, felony domestic violence, solicitation to commit murder is not a violent crime in California. A false imprisonment or taking a hostage to avoid arrest or using him as a shield is not a violent crime in California. Felony hate crime. And some of the ones I want to really focus on right now are the rape of an unconscious person or rape of by intoxication. Human trafficking of a child is not a violent crime in California. Abducting a minor for prostitution. Now, we've done incredible work in California working on human trafficking and combating human trafficking and bringing those horrible criminals to justice. Yet our criminal justice system won't hold them accountable because these are not considered violent crimes. This is wholly absurd to me and to the police chiefs in our state who work hard to end these horrible crimes, yet these folks are not held accountable. And that's why Prop 20 is so critically important to us because it puts these violent crimes right back where they belong, into the violent crime category. It doesn't put more people in prison, but it does hold those bad actors accountable for their heinous crimes, and it gives a voice back to our victims. And for these reasons and many, many others, your California Police Chiefs Association stands shoulder to shoulder with our District Attorneys Association, our California League of Cities, and many other cities that have already passed resolutions in support of Proposition 20, the Retailers Association, the Grocers Association, and many of our friends and allies in the law enforcement community. Law enforcement does support Proposition 20. Why? Because it helps keep California safe and it protects our victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, we are so happy that even the San Francisco police are with us on Proposition 20. And this morning, we're happy to have the president of San Francisco Deputy Sheriff's Association, Mr. Ken Lumber.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you for everybody having me here, giving me the opportunity to speak. I agree with all of what you're saying. The Deputy Sheriff's Association here in San Francisco is in support of Prop 20. And just speaking a little bit about the past, as several of you have touched on, AB 109, Proposition 47, and Proposition 57. The authors of those had good intentions when they put them together, but over the years, we've seen people take advantage of the good intentions, so to speak. You have the organized crime rings that were mentioned here. You have professional criminals, you have serial criminals that are taking advantage of some of the loopholes, if you will, in these laws, or they found ways to manipulate them, as you heard stated on this conference call. With that, Assemblymember Jim Cooper, his associates, Ms. Hennessy, they put together a thoughtful and meaningful amendment with Prop 20 to fix these loopholes. Because at the end of the day, we all want public safety. We don't want lawlessness. We don't want, crime free-for-alls, and we're seeing that on the TV almost daily now. Last night I was watching the news, and we're seeing people looting at stores and crime rings going into stores with bags and just loading up and walking out. But there are more serious crimes that Prop 20 addresses too, and we need to fix these loopholes. We need to get back to public safety being a priority. We need to focus on protecting our children. We want to hold the repeat offenders accountable, and we want to stop the organized crime rings. And there has to be, if you will, like a scale. Everything, we can't have laws that are so lenient, and we can't have laws that are extremely strict in all circumstances. We want to meet somewhere in the middle, because we want to be, all of us are caring and compassionate people, and we want the first-time offenders to be rehabilitated and get back into society and have a productive life. But for the people that are repeatedly violating the law, knowingly, the professionals, the crime rings, there has to be an escalation of consequences. And I agree with what you're all saying. Prop 20 will fix those issues. It has a progressive, disciplined style of approach to handle these problems, and we support it. And I like to, also share with everyone, please vote yes on Proposition 20. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Well, I would like to mention that for Prop 20, Regional Chair of California Narcotic Officers Association, Ms. Faye Maloney.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Faye Maloney, and I'm the chairwoman for Region 1 at the California Narcotics Officers Association. Our association is approximately 6,500 members throughout California. And I want to thank all of you for being with us today as we advocate for the passing of Proposition 20. California experienced dramatic law changes starting with AB 109 in 2011, Proposition 47 in 2014, and Proposition 57 in 2016. We have seen an increase in drug use addiction, an increase of larceny, thefts, loss of businesses due to the inability to keep up with their loss due to thefts, the release of many offenders who should have not been released, and the lack of integration to society programs. Officers often encounter individuals who have committed crimes for the sole purpose of feeding a habit. What habit? It's drug addiction. The drug market is not safe. The potency differs from one dose to another, from one seller to another. Developing addiction has become rapid, as well as the increase of mental illness induced by drug addiction. Officers come in contact with many individuals who are committing crimes due to drug addiction. We have to recognize those individuals who utilize their time in our correctional facilities and take an advantage of any resources to rehabilitate themselves to stop their drug addiction. Some individuals accredited officers' actions into saving their lives from a road to a drug overdose, preventing death. Proposition 20 recognizes the drug overdose problem has become more serious. Prop 20 helps to alleviate this problem. For example, if drug addicts are deterred not to continue stealing for money to buy drugs, they may have no way to sustain their drug habits. If an offender is caught for stealing the third time, first 2 times is a value of $950 or more, and the third time is a value of $250 due to drug addiction, they can be ordered to attend a diversion program to help them rehabilitate from their drug addiction. This would also in the sustainability in their mental health. Proposition 20 allows many DNA collection. This is vital to the solving of serious cases such as rape, murder, human trafficking, and drug trafficking. Prop 20 reinstates DNA collection for certain crimes that were reduced to misdemeanors as part of Prop 47. Multiple studies have shown that DNA collected from theft and drug crimes has helped solve other violent crimes, including robbery, rape, and murder. And since the passage of Prop 47, cold case hits have dropped over 2,000, with more than 450 of those hits connected to violent crimes. We urge you to listen to everyone's testimony and support Proposition 20. And let's keep our communities in California safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faye.
You are welcome.
And right now, alphabetically, we have our next speaker who has been working hard through the years and persistently fighting against drugs, especially for drug prevention and in helping our society. He is the founder and president of Take Back America, Mr. Roger Morgan.
Thank you, Frank. I'm a happy supporter of Prop 20. Anything that would help mitigate the consequences of Prop 47 and 57 is highly desirable. I've been in drug prevention work for about 25 years. And about the time I got started in San Diego, I was invited by a judge to go visit a juvenile detention center. And he said, let me give you some sage advice. He said the judicial system is not the enemy. In fact, it is probably the only way that we can save these young people. And I fully subscribe to that. The same thing holds true with drug courts, which have been very successful. And when Prop 47 came out, I was absolutely aghast. The bill was named the Safe Neighborhood and Schools Act, ballot language that was approved by then Attorney General Kamala Harris. In reality, it had nothing to do with safe neighborhoods or schools. It was more the effect of drug money flowing into our state and helping shape policies that favored the marijuana industry and the drug industry as opposed to keeping kids safe. So what's happened when they started to release prisoners by downgrading their felonies to misdemeanors for marijuana crimes. What happened is almost all of those people that were in jail for marijuana crimes were there because of drug dealing, not because of simple possession. So all of a sudden you release all of those people back on the streets. Not only do you have an increase in property crimes, but you have an increase in drug use and marijuana. And marijuana is a foundation for all drug use. It almost always begins there. It's a gateway to heroin, opioids, meth, cocaine, fentanyl, all of it. And you can see the effect today on almost every city in this state with the homeless population. And it's just gotten worse. So I think we have to be careful about saying good intentions for Prop 47, 57. Frankly, I don't think they were good intentions from the politicians that were involved in them. I think it's more an effect of drug money flowing into our state from a few billionaires like George Soros and a few others. But at any rate, the idea of rehabilitation versus punishment is a key. I hope Prop 20 can accomplish that. Again, the drug courts were very successful because they would give somebody a choice. You can either go to prison or you can go to rehabilitation. When drug use was a felony, it had a lot more teeth. You have to have a carrot and a stick. And so what's happened since then is because a lot of addicts know that they might get a little time in jail because of a misdemeanor. A lot of them would rather do that and have their drugs than go to rehabilitation. So you need a carrot and a stick, and Prop 47, 57, they took the stick away, and it's been very detrimental to a lot of people. I mean, let's talk about the people using drugs who we're trying to save. If they have any path to a valid future, they have to have rehabilitation and treatment. And most of them don't want it. If you don't force them to get it, they're not going to do it. Prop 20 achieves that. I'm all for it. And I thank you for taking leadership on this issue, and you have my full support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roger. Now, actually, business leaders all over California, including the Bay Area, are supporting firmly our proposition. And we are so happy to have a business leader with us today, and he has done a good job for our society, and is from Silicon Valley, the president of Asian American Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Dennis Wen.
Hello. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can you hear? Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Dennis.
Oh, good morning. Hello, everyone. Stay healthy and keep safe. Thanks for inviting me to talk about this Prop 20. We all support this Prop 20 because in the South Bay, there's a large population, Asian population, Chinese and Vietnamese. For most of us are in the small business sector. For small business, like the name applies, small business. So the profit margin is really small. When all those shopliftings and theft occur and really hurt their bottom line and hurt their profit, or and hard to get on business with those theft and shopliftings. And most Chinese and Asians are kind of not a vocal group. Sometimes they don't even bother to report to the police or the insurance company. The reason why that is, first thing they think is not much help, even report those crimes to the police or police, because it create more trouble, more problem for them and take time off from the business. And so those loss of business can easily transfer to the consumers and thus hurting the whole society. And is hurting the general public and everybody. And, we really support the Proposition 20. And regardless of our difference in philosophy, we need to have proper law and order so as to do business and live our life properly. And we need kind of a proper check and balance in every aspect. And Prop 20 is, should, I hope everybody support and it will pass. And, and so it will help, the small business as well as the community, business community, all these years we've been hurting. So I hope everybody kind of support this Proposition 20, and thanks Frank to start this proposition, and thanks everybody and all the law enforcement behind this. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, actually, Bishop Ron Allen should be the first one to speak after Michelle and me, but he's stepped away. Then we're going back to Bishop Ron Allen, who is very influential in California. He is the president of International Faith-Based Coalition and also the chair of National Congress of Racial Equality. We're so happy to have him today. Bishop Ron Allen.
No,
still not back yet?
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing him.
Okay, maybe something happened, because he has been telling me that he's extremely busy with all kinds of issues, and he has been doing many funerals because of COVID-19. It's probably an emergency comes up, but he is adamantly supporting us, and he also believes that crime and violence actually is hurting minority neighborhoods to a large extent. So contrary to what some people are saying, hey, please don't impose on us, don't have a tough law. He is actually strongly with us. He believes that this is the solution to the problem, of the minority neighborhoods. And Bishop Ron Allen is a good ally. Now, right now we are going to have our Q&A, and I'm going to let our campaign coordinator to be the moderator, and she has done an outstanding job. really enjoy working with her. She's from McNally and Temple, Ms. Kelly Reed.
Well, thank you very much. I had posted in our protocol on the chat box that if any media had questions, that they could write question in the chat box, but this may not be the format that people are used to. So I normally don't do this, but if you would like to unmute and I'm going to say one at a time, but nobody knows who's going to go first. So I hesitate to do it, but does the media have any questions? This is unheard of. None whatsoever. So this is the most thorough news conference in the history of the world.
Yeah, probably we have done a great job in explaining all the specific and the details. Huh?
Hi, this is Linda. I'm from the Epic Times Los Angeles office, and I do have a question here. Am I able to ask that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the one thing most people are really curious about, what is the ballot language for Prop 20 now? Because past when 2016, when Proposition 47 be passed, the title and the language seems like really beautiful. So that's the reason may occur the voter to pass that bill. I mean, to pass that proposition. So I'm wondering, what is the ballot language for Proposition 20 this year? And so it's just to make sure not misleading people, misleading the voter to vote for this proposition.
Michelle, would you like to take that?
Thank you. Let me unmute. Yeah, the ballot language is lengthy. If you printed it out in 12-point font, it's going to be probably 8 to 10 pages long. And it's a bunch of basically technical changes to the penal code and to other codes. So I really can't read it all to you, but I'm sure Kelly Reed has it and it is online. And it's lengthy, but if you want to ask specific questions about any of the language or anything that we have discussed today, I'm happy to try to answer those questions.
Yeah, my point is, like, I'm just wondering, is it the language for Proposition 20 is also have anything misleading voter, or what the voter have to be aware to vote on this proposition? Because for idea about yes on Prop 20 is really clear, is vote on yes, but for some people who don't really know about Proposition 20, and is it the language is gonna misleading them, or is clear what this proposition is?
Well, we think the language of the proposition itself is clear. And if the voters want to know what it does, there is a preamble. It's called the Findings and Declarations. It's listed in the ballot initiative, the language that was signed and approved to go to the voters. And it lists a number of bullet points to describe exactly what the law does and why it's doing this and what the purposes are. So it is listed in the language of Proposition 20 itself. The Attorney General is responsible for writing the ballot descriptions that go on the official voter materials. And it's important to note in this case that the Attorney General wrote a description that we did not think was fair. We thought it was misleading to voters. And a court agreed, and a court is making the Attorney General change the ballot description so that the voters are not deceived by something that's misleading.
Are there any other questions? I'm sorry, did that answer your question? I also just put in the chat box a hyperlink to the actual language for Prop 20, lengthy as it is.
Oh, thank you. I saw that.
Great. Are there any other questions? In case someone accidentally has their mute on and are trying to ask something, I'm going to pause and wait. Anyone? Okay, hearing none, we are going to make this recording available to anyone who wants it. Everyone has my contact information from the advisory and a release that was also put into the chat box. So please email me if you would like a copy of this recording. And if you want to talk to any of our speakers offline after this, if you think of a question, let me know and I can try and hook you up with them. All right. Mr. Lee, any final comments?
Okay, well, we will really appreciate every one of you. We want to say thank you to all the speakers and also to all our media friends. And if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. And it is very important that we all support Prop 20. This is exactly the solution to solve the current problems in the state of California. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.